Kia ora, good evening and welcome to Central News for Thursday the 3rd of April. I'm Hilary Entwistle. The baby meerkats born at Hamilton Zoo on February the 1st are proving to be a popular attraction with adults and children alike. The baby meerkats are being well looked after by all the adult meerkats, and as keeper Louise van der Sand explains, they are at Hamilton Zoo for the foreseeable future.
We're not sure for the foreseeable future. It will come down to the species coordinator. Most species we have in captivity have a coordinator for Australasia, so they will determine where their genetics are best placed, but for the foreseeable future they will stay here until we know better.
3 Bay of Plenty steamers forwards with Super Rugby experience are signalling their intentions of moving the side forward, re-signing with the Union for the upcoming ITM Cup season. Loose forward and number 8 Carl Axtons, prop Kane Hames and lock Callum Retallick have all put pen to paper, allowing them to resume provincial duties at the conclusion of the Super Rugby season. Axton with the Chiefs, Hames with the Highlanders and Retallick with the Blues. Bay of Plenty Rugby Union Chief Executive Mike Rogers says he's rapt to have quality players such as the 3 recommit to the Union, despite dropping from the Premiership to the Championship as a result of their 2013 campaign. A mentoring program for female victims of domestic abuse has been launched in Hamilton by fashion designer Anna Stretton. Reclaiming Another Woman, or RAW for short, pairs abused women who want to start afresh with a female mentor to help them to that. Anna Stretton explains RAW's overall guiding philosophy.
Well, RAW's vision is all about educating for choice. So we're taking women that have come from difficult, violent domestic situations and presenting opportunities to them, and a lot of those will be around education. So we're piloting in the Waikato. Already we have 50 women on the program, and all of those women are going through some sort of educative process. So for us, it's not just about finding jobs or working alongside to kind of talk them through. It's actually about action. It's doing something that will change their lives.
The $2.4 million government-funded RENA long-term environmental recovery plan is now reaching its final stages as weathered oil and beads continue to wash up on beaches. The plan, launched by then Environment Minister Nick Smith in January 2012, 3 months after the ship grounded on Astrolabe Reef on October the 5th, 2011, is due for completion in June 2015. But while some projects continue, a number of the larger ones are now complete. RENA Recovery Manager Bruce Fraser says beaches are no longer being monitored proactively, with Bay of Plenty Regional Council responding to any sightings of oil through the pollution hotline. Bruce says until weathered oil washed up after Cyclone Lucy, no oil had been reported on the beaches since August last year. Now for our region's marine forecast, west coast Raglan, variable 10 knots, developing Friday afternoon to a southerly 15 knots. Your high tide is 14:08 in Raglan. East coast Bay of Plenty, variable 5 knots, but southeast 10 knots east of Motuhoro Island, becoming northerly 10 knots everywhere for a time in the afternoon. The sea slight and fair visibility in isolated afternoon and evening showers tomorrow. High tide is 11:34 a.m. in Tauranga. Just ahead, what you need to know about insuring your house. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. There have been changes made to home insurance policies, and many are becoming concerned. I spoke with Rex Pedersen of Total Rebuild Quantifiers to find out what you need to know as a homeowner. Welcome to the program, Rex.
Thank you.
Now, there have been changes made to home insurance and how one goes about insuring their home, so can you explain that?
Since the Christchurch earthquakes occurred last, there's been a major change within the world of insurance. The overseas reinsurers of insurance companies have said to the world that you can no longer have replacement insurance. Now, all of us that own homes are used to this for going on for years, where you just paid a premium. If something went wrong, your insurance company paid out. That was grand and it was a good place to be. The world changed. Nowadays, what you have to do as a homeowner is you have to pick a number to insure your house for. Now, that's a great thing, except you've got to figure out a way to pick that number. And that's, of course, the magic of science.
So it's just Christchurch that has kind of led to this whole national, well, international change.
I think what you'll look at when it came to New Zealand, and New Zealand is one of the last countries in the world to shift from full replacement insurance to actually having a fixed sum insurance. Christchurch, while indeed was a catalyst, it was a time where a lot of insurance companies had some pretty heavy expenditure and large costs. We're seeing that the cost of rebuild within Christchurch is a lot higher than people thought it was going to be. So making the decision of saying that if you're in the business of insurance, and I'm not in that business, but if you're in the business of insurance, you've got to say to yourself, I need to know how much I'm exposed to it for. So you need to say to your customers, which is me, you, anyone that owns a home, say how much do you want to insure it for, then they can work out what it will cost to do that and they know what their exposure level is so they don't go broke.
How does that work with the pricing market increasing and the value of your home increasing?
Yet to be determined, because one of the things we find, and I'll give a beautiful example of this, we went to Taumarunui the other day, we had a little two-bedroom villa in Taumarunui, and it wasn't worth that much on the market, sorry Taumarunui, but if we deal with the same two-bedroom villa in Ponsonby in Auckland, it'd be sort of $1.5–2 million. So the retail value of it has nothing to do with the rebuilding cost. The rebuilding cost, in fact, in Taumarunui is higher than it is in Ponsonby. Because there's not as many builders, the cost of getting goods down there is far higher. So the two things don't have relevance to each other, and I think New Zealanders are struggling to get that as an understanding.
I mean, that's definitely one of the things that was kind of going through my head. So there are a few options out there available. We can use these figure-provided default things by the insurance companies that they're putting out there. Do you advise using those?
You'll see that the insurance companies give you a number of options. They give you the default sum insured figure. If you read their websites and you read their information properly, they actually have disclaimers in there saying this is only an interim figure. It is just an interim number until you do something about it. And the insurance companies have been very, very clear about it. And I know as Kiwis we don't like spending money to have to do something new, but the insurance companies have been clear and said it's an interim number until you give us a proper number and you need to go and do something about that. Now the insurance companies then do the great things, they send you the letter, and we've all had them by now, saying have a look at this, read through this, interim figure, go and do something about it. You can go and get some professional advice, and that's the right thing to do. Then they give you another little option sitting at the bottom which says go and have a go at the online calculator. The online calculator is one of the most fun things you'll ever do, because if you go and have a look at it, you'll go, how do I describe my house? How do I put the information in about my property? And it's not very specific, and in fact they have disclaimers on there as well, and the disclaimers go down the track of saying do not use this for insurance purposes. So they're saying it's just a way of trying to give you a way to help you make a decision, but the truth is there's only one way of trying to figure out how much a house will cost to rebuild, and that's by going to somebody that can work out the numbers. And it's not a mystical science, it's a real science. It's a true numbers based. It costs this for the screws, it costs this for the nails, it costs this for your roof, it costs this for the concrete. And there'll be some people that think, oh, okay, I can just use a number of so many dollars a square metre. Now the square metre rate is not a good way to work on, and the reason why is if you're building a house in Tauranga, for instance, it's more expensive than building one here in Matamata. Okay, the reason why is in Tauranga they have to use coastal grade materials. They're beside the sea, so everything has to be a higher spec. So you go, oh, okay, there's one little variation. It's quite a major expense. Now, if you're building a house on the side of a hill, as opposed to building a house on a flat, there's a lot of different cost. When you look at those insurance policies that we've all got, and they'll say things like, you need to be specific about your retaining walls. Okay, so they might ask you, have you got none, some, or a lot? Now your perception and my perception.
Specific, isn't it?
What is none? That's pretty clear. What is some? I don't know, my sum is different to your sum. A lot is different. So when you're looking at those things, you can't just make sort of rash judgments about it, because the one thing that you've got as a homeowner is you've got your money tied up in it. Most people's biggest wealth asset is in fact their home. And if you only have that there, you really want to make sure that you protect the money, because it's just money and bricks and mortar. That's what it is. So you need to make sure that if you have the disaster, if you had a Christchurch, if you have your house that burned to the ground, you really need to make sure that you can actually rebuild it and actually be able to have the same place back that you had before.
Coming up after the break, the funding cuts to the Problem Gambling Foundation. Welcome back. The balloons over Waikato Night Glow was celebrated last Saturday night at the University of Waikato. But it turns out the university had a little milestone of its own to celebrate. Amy caught up with Vice-Chancellor Professor Roy Crawford.
Well, we're delighted to be part of the balloons this year because this is our 50th anniversary. In 1964, the university was created on this very site when it was just fields and paddocks and a cowshed. There were no trees, there were no buildings at that time, and the university has obviously come a very long way to be probably what is the most attractive campus in New Zealand now for a university.
Yeah. Now, the theme of tonight's event is 5 decades of music. Is this relating to the university with their 5 years of existence?
Well, certainly during those 5 decades, the university has transformed itself. In the very early days and the first few years when we had only 19 graduates, and over those 5 decades that you refer to, we now have 90,000 graduates. And the number of subjects that we offer has changed over the years, obviously. And we've also had a tremendous loyalty from the staff. Many staff have stayed with the university right from the very beginning. And during this year, when we have anniversary celebration events, we've got graduates who come back and remember fondly the halls of residence from those very early days.
And are you celebrating any other way for the university's big 50th milestone?
Well, during this year we've got a whole range of events. For example, about a month ago we had a book which was celebrating the 50 years of the university. We had a celebration event for that when we had the former vice-chancellors and chancellors and former staff and students came back to celebrate that. Then about 2 weeks ago we had the Prime Minister on campus to unveil a plaque celebrating the 50th anniversary. And that plaque will be put on a time capsule where we will enclose a whole range of memorabilia from this year and over the years, and that will be opened in 50 years' time when we're celebrating our first century.
Yeah, what other benefits does this bring to the University of Waikato?
Well, we've been involved for quite a number of years, originally when it was in the lake, in the city centre, and I think it's now 5 or 6 years that it has been on our campus. And we're delighted to have it here because since the university was formed, it was very much a community university for the community. The university is now involved with field days, we're involved with the Arts Festival, we're involved with the Avanti Drome, and now of course the balloons also. Because we want the community to use this campus just as they would the Hamilton Gardens, for example. And we don't have any fences around the campus because we want people to come in and walk the dog or jog or do some running or whatever. And it's great to see thousands and thousands of people here tonight using the campus.
And what do you look forward to most about tonight's event?
Well, for me, it's seeing the young kids and the sparkle in their eyes when they see the balloons and all the fun rides and all those events. And it gets them comfortable being on a university campus. And we hope, of course, perhaps in 10 years, 15 years' time, that they will come to this university. So for me, that is the excitement for the evening.
Looks like it was a great night. The Problem Gambling Foundation has lost 3/4 of its $5 million government funding and will be closing its 12 offices around the country, with most of its 63 staff losing their jobs. The foundation has been the key provider of addiction and treatment services for gambling problems for about 20 years and has dealt with 25,000 people in that time. Anne-Marie spoke with Cheryl Smith from the Problem Gambling Foundation in Hamilton and asked what the consequences will be of the funding cut.
Yes, with 77% of our funding cut, it means that we've got offices all over the country, 10 offices and 11 outreach clinics. So 63 staff overall, and there is 11 going to be funded apparently after the 30th of June for Asian Family Services, which is one of our specialist branches of service. So the rest of our services are looking in serious threat of closure from July the 1st.
Problem Gambling Foundation is very targeted and specific in the way you assist people. How does your philosophy and services differ to that of the Salvation Army?
Our mission statement is building healthy communities free from gambling harm. So that's what all of our energy goes into, whether that be working with clients who have got themselves into trouble with problem gambling and anybody who's affected by that, That can be family, friends and others. It's also that we have a public health arm as well that are looking to prevent that harm from occurring in the first place, so that we don't need to be necessarily the treatment at the end of when the problem has occurred already. So that's all the side of things that would go, because I guess the Salvation Army has their addiction treatment focused.
If PGF is no more, how is that going to affect gamblers who require that specific help?
Yeah, we're the largest provider of problem gambling services in Australasia. So with us, if we go, that means that there is less choice again for a person who's struggling and needs some help. They will have one choice for service. And once upon a time there were 3 or 4, especially in the Waikato here, there were 3 or 4 choices. We're down to no choice really if you've got one provider.
And the Problem Gambling Foundation's model is admired by Australia.
That's right. We're seen as leading the world in lots of ways, because in New Zealand communities we've recognised the huge harm that comes from problem gambling, and that we've been doing something about it. And over the last 2 years in particular, we've had significant cuts in the money that's been lost through non-casino pokie gambling. So we're having some success in those areas.
It's been said that the cut by the Ministry of Health was in retaliation for the Problem Gambling Foundation speaking out against the government. Of course, that has been denied by Peter Dunn. Is the cut political?
I guess what happens effectively is that our voice is silenced. So we've been a focal point for community, for people suffering with gambling harm who maybe feel vulnerable and don't want to speak out publicly, that we've been able to do that on behalf of our communities, and also lobbying, local councils too. So that voice is effectively lost.
If you or someone you know needs help with problem gambling, call 0800 664 2621 or go to pgnz.org.nz. After the break, we check out your weather for Friday. Welcome to Central News. A nationwide charity, Bellyful, supplies free meals to families with babies under 3 months and families in crisis, particularly those who have a child or parent in hospital, have a very sick child, or are going through difficult personal circumstances and who don't have a great deal of support around them. Anne-Marie spoke with fundraising coordinator Megan Thorne to find out who's eligible for meals from Bellyful.
Describing who's eligible is probably best done through talking about what it is that we do. We provide meals for families with newborns and for families who are struggling through illness who don't have a lot of family support. So really family support is the strongest criteria. So if you have a local family live locally, or a support network who can provide meals for you, then we ask you to rely on that support. If you don't, and you have a newborn, so a baby under 3 months, or you are a family struggling through illness, whether that be mother, father or children, and you don't have a support network, then you are eligible for Bellyful meals.
What's the process? Do people apply or are they referred?
A bit of both. So, the ultimate, I think, is if someone refers themselves for Bellyful meals, because it can be such a hard thing to ask for support when you really need it. So it's fantastic when families call and let us know that they're having a baby or they've had a baby and they need a bit of help and they don't have a support network. That's brilliant. And then anybody can refer someone for a Bellyful meal. So we have lots of friends call and refer their friends. So let's say it's a friend who maybe has babies themselves and they don't have time to provide the meals, then we'll do that for them. We have friends that live, or family that live out of town, and they might say that we've got this family in Hamilton who have just had a baby and they need some support. That's great. We also get referrals from midwives, we get referrals from NICU, we get referrals from social workers, doctors, Plunket, the Multiple Birth Society. So everybody really that's involved with families and children send referrals to Bellyful. But the top answer to that question is anyone can refer anyone for a Bellyful meal.
Who makes the meals?
We are run by volunteers, so we're a national not-for-profit and we run completely by volunteers. And once a month-ish, a group of volunteers get together and we do what's called a cookathon. So we do it out of a commercial kitchen, and very kindly Wise Group have donated their commercial kitchen at Kakariki House on Grey Street in Hamilton East. So we go there at 5:30 in the evening, and usually around about 7 to 8 volunteers, depending on the number of meals we're making on a night, we'll get together and we'll whip up a few meals.
Is there a certain type of meal you make?
We make 3 very specific meals. So there's been a lot of research done in the setting up of Bellyful as to meals that are easy to make, are nutritious and hearty, and very importantly that young children like to eat, because quite often we're feeding young children as well. So we make 3 very basic meals. We make a lasagna, a macaroni and cheese and a bolognese sauce.
And there's no catch. Do people find that hard to believe?
I think that by the time people sort of get in touch with us, they realise there's no catch. Probably because the person who maybe has referred them has given them a bit of background information. There has definitely been the odd call where you've called and you said this is what we do, and they're like, well, what does it cost? And it's so nice to be able to say it's free.
For more details, go to the Facebook page for Ballyful Hamilton or ballyful.org.nz. Right, your weather for Friday. Hamilton, mainly fine with light winds. Your expected high is 23 and an overnight low of 9. The rest of the Waikato looks like we may have some heavy thundery showers this evening, but it is expected to be a fine day tomorrow once the fog has cleared. Your expected high at Paeroa is 23 and an overnight low of 10. Matamata, your expected high is 21 and an overnight low of 10. Te Awamutu, 23 and 9, your expected temperatures. And Tokoroa, 22 and an 8 for your overnight low. That sounds very chilly. The Bay of Plenty, Tauranga, mainly fine with light winds. There will be some morning and evening cloud though. Your expected high is 23 and an overnight low of 13. Te Puke, the same for you, but there is patchy drizzle about on the eastern ranges. Your expected high is 21 and an overnight low of 12. That's Central News for today. Like us on Facebook or send us an email and let us know about any stories you have of your own. Our Facebook page is Central News, or you can email us at news@tvcentral.co.nz. Anne-Marie will be here tomorrow night to bring you more stories from our local people. I'm Hilary Entwistle. I hope you have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.